nerds and turds. It's me, it's Steve, it's him, it's Andy. It's just the two of us this week as Matt is recovering from his 6th bout with the COVID-19 virus. Welcome to the indieRift podcast, the internet's #1 indie gaming news, reviews, and previews podcast hosted by people you've never heard of until this very moment. What's up, Andy? How are you?
You know, it's like the old saying goes, Steve. You can teach a man to fish, but you can't teach a man to stop licking doorknobs.
Yep.
That's
Can't do it.
How Matt gets sick so often.
He's fine, for those wondering, just recovering. And in his recovery decided to just go to a packed concert yesterday. So who the fuck knows what's going on with Matt anyway? But what's worse,
right? And he's like, oh, I'm recovering from the COVID and the concert.
could have just been one of those two. But whatever. Enjoy life. Life's too short. Enjoy it. But the worst thing is the technology. We have been just having issues. We've tried to record the show on 2 other occasions where technology shit itself. And we just threw our hands up and we're like, no, we're done. No more. We'll try another day. And this time we just decided we're going to go without an essential part of the show, which is Andy being able to see my face simultaneously. I usually have a second camera set up, not working. Don't know why. It just decided doesn't no. Just said no. Anyway, we got video games to talk about. And we got to talk about indieRift, because a lot of cool things going on, especially what happened this past weekend. But before we get into that aspect of everything, make sure you follow us on social media. We are at indieRift everywhere. So make sure you're following us for all of our updates and all that fun stuff. Go to indieRift.com. And of course, go to patreon.com/indieRift, just like Colton, the journeyman, Nestler. Can't continue to grow without your support, Colton, and everybody else. So thank you. So it's no secret. We've been missing for about a month. We haven't posted any content in just about a month. All 3 of us have gone through very different, but just as equally important life changes in one way or another. We don't have to get into them right now, but the dust is settling. And this past weekend has lit a fire under our asses, because this weekend we went to a very small, very intimate, but very awesome Comic Con, mini little Comic Con out on Staten Island called the St. Anne Comic Con. It is run by friend of the show, friend of indieRift, Patrick Hickey Jr., who asked us if we wanted to be a part of it a few months ago. And if there's one thing in life that I've learned, Andy, you don't say no to Patrick.
He won't let you say no. That's that's the lesson.
Yeah.
No is not on the table. It's a non-negotiable.
Well, no is definitely on the table for this one, but like, what would we do? What would we do at a table, right? Like, that was the thing that we had to think about. What would we do? We don't sell anything. Or even if we did, nobody would buy an indieRift anything, because nobody at that space would know who we are. It's a comic book, toys, Funko Pops, cards, Pokemon all over the place. It was like that kind of place, right? Yeah. A lot of art. Actually, I bought one. It's over here. This really cool Vegeta piece of art, which I thought was really cool. The artist draws them digitally and then gets them printed, and then uses like a 3D acrylic paint to paint over his drawing to give it like this kind of like pop action. And unfortunately, he did not put his name or his business on the piece, but I do have his card somewhere. But it was full of really cool stuff like that. And what we decided to do is we were just going to just encourage people to subscribe by having a prize wheel where they could spin and get some, stickers and Funko Pops and plushies and comic books and just all kinds of stuff. We just had a table full of stuff. So we were the only table giving away things for free, basically, just for subscribing. There were a couple of kids. Go ahead.
It was a very low pressure table. You could go there and not spend a dime.
Mm-hmm.
That was our pitch.
The only thing you would have to spend is your dignity. And some kids had no qualms with using every available email or account that they had to subscribe to our many different outlets, including we had Spotify for two podcasts. We had Apple Podcasts for the two different shows, Dev Dive and the indieRift podcast. And then we had our YouTube channel. So some kid, I think he subscribed probably close to 20 times.
There was a kid who went home the one night and then made a bunch of accounts to get ready for the next day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just to win a bunch of pop figures and plushies that, you know, these things don't cost much. And they're not even that special or unique, you know. But he was adorable. It was a nice, fun little weekend.
Yeah.
And I'm super glad that we did it. We made some fun mememories.
And we made some fun connections that could help us with a very top secret double probation project that we will be working on in the coming months. So
I saw your email about that today.
Indeed. So things are happening here at indieRift. So we'll see what happens.
Can I just say before you move on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that that top secret project seems like the next natural step for us.
Yeah, it shall be. It shall be. Full disclosure, we started recording this show a little bit late, so it is bleeding into my fantasy hockey draft allotted time. So I will be distracted in a few moments. I know who the best player is to pick, so I will be picking the best player as quickly as possible. I don't have a strategy. I don't have anything that I want to draft. I'm just gonna start drafting. So if you see me staring in this direction, that is the draft board. Okay. This direction is gameplay. This direction is Andy. So
since Matt isn't here, I was gonna go a little bit long on what I'm playing this week in my indie game adventures to kind of like fill up his time.
Hell yeah.
And I have a lot to talk about also.
We have a lot of news to talk about.
On this stupid news.
Yeah, we have a lot of news to talk about. So all right, so why don't we dive right into the indie game adventures, and I will start us off with a little game that I've been playing called Fairy Tale Dungeons. Andy, you actually played this a little bit with me.
I did. It's so cute.
Yeah. Fairy Tale Dungeons. Apparently Fairy Tale is an anime. I'm sorry, I'm not a huge anime person. If it's not Dragon Ball Z, I don't really know anything about it. But this is a card-based JRPG roguelike. Like a dungeon crawly roguelike where you're trying to like get through to the end of the dungeon, whatever. It's a ton of fun. Like this reminds me of what I love about the JRPG, because it has a lot of more JRPG DNA in it than I feel like a roguelike DNA. You play as a archetypical character. So like the first character you have is a high attack character. So their deck, the starter deck, is a lot of attacks, right? And what happens is you go down into a labyrinth, or a dungeon, and there's all these tiles, and you have a countdown at the bottom left. So each move you take in this labyrinth counts down that countdown, and when you get to 0, the boss shows up. Simple mechanic. So you want to go about this dungeon hopping between tiles, gathering resources, gathering more cards, and fighting other enemies so that you can get other rewards, right? So that's essentially the gist of a dungeon run. That's what you're sort of doing. So you go through, once you beat the first labyrinth, you're able to you need to beat the first labyrinth with 2 different characters, and you meet characters along the way, which is super fun. These are all very realized characters. It's from a very popular anime, which is supposedly coming back soon, which is like why these games are starting to come out. So these characters have this really, really cool, well thought out dialogue, and they seem fully realized. Like they have fully developed relationships with each other already. So you meet these other characters, and once you beat that dungeon twice, you take basically your what's the word I'm looking for? Your loadout, however you finished that dungeon, and you save it as like a memory. And then when you go to the next dungeon, you take those characters and you take those memories with you. So you continue your adventure with the cards that you and upgrades you already unlocked in the previous labyrinth. And if you say don't like a run that you did, you could still save another memory, and then you could like just have a second loadout, a second memory, basically a second deck that plays a little bit differently than the first one you did. So there's a lot of that, and you can have up to 4 per character, which is pretty cool. They do these, there's certain cards that you like chain together and do massive damage. There's characters that specialize in shield. There's some that specialize in healing, some that specialize in ranged magic or AoE effects and stuff like that. So it's all, you're always building a team. And as you get further into the labyrinths, as you're doing further, more difficult labyrinths, you bring more party members. So like the second one, you bring 2 with you. The third one, you bring 3. I haven't made it past the third one, but that's sort of the gist of everything. You're building a party, drawing 4 cards. You have a limited amount of mana to use your cards, do your attacks, blah, 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 rinse and repeat. I'm having a blast with it. I know you played it for just a few moments. Do you want to give like your very high level thoughts of what you played when you did play?
Well, the one thing that I really I liked was it was very Valkyrie profile, one of my favorite JRPGs on PS1 back in the olden days. How each face button is an attack, so you can chain and link attacks together. So I felt right at home with the format, and I liked it was like a little bite size. You know, you fight a couple of rounds, you walk around the map, you go for a treasure, go for an encounter, go for a battle. Then when it's over, you fight a boss, you move on. Very simple, very straightforward, highly addictive.
Yeah, yeah. It's once you start, and it's very flashy. Like all the attacks are very flashy. It's very anime.
Yeah, which I
It
love.
feels good when you're playing too. Like it doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel like you're that like it's the difficulty spike is too high. You do have to make those choices of, oh, when I rest, do I want to, when I get to a campfire, do I want to rest and gain 30% HP for all my characters, or do I want a new 3 new cards or a new card or like 2 new items or whatever. So like you're always balancing that as you're going along, which was a lot of fun to me. And it doesn't take itself too seriously with the roguelite aspects of it. It's very, very simple. It's very forgiving. But I was enjoying myself very much.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel cheap either. It doesn't look like it's a mobile game.
Yeah,
which is what I
for
thought
sure.
going into this thing when you were like, "Hey, play this for like 10 minutes." Has a very clean UI, great particle effects, great sprite work. Looks fantastic. So made with passion, attention, and love. So I recommend it after playing for literally 5 minutes on Saturday.
It has very positive reviews on Steam. It does have a demo if you'd like to try it out, and it is only $14 if you wanted to buy
There you
it.
go.
So that's Fairy Tale Dungeons. All right, Andy, why don't you take us into what you're playing, Hollowbody. Spooky.
Hollowbody. This game sort of perfectly embodies why I love 2 things. One is the horror genre, and 2, the show that we do, mainly our developer interview podcast, Dev Dive. So, former guest of the show, Nathan Hamley, we talked about Chasing Static 1,000 years ago. His next game was a PS2 era inspired survival horror game, which is now released called Hollowbody. I was literally in real time chatting with him over Discord while playing this game.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was such a blast. I love this game so much. I finished it in 1 sitting. I turned it on in the afternoon on Saturday, and I just kept playing up until I want to say maybe 11 o'clock at night. Took breaks only for dinner and to walk the dog. But it was the first time, I think, in a long time that I really couldn't tear myself away from a game. I was hooked immediately. And I couldn't put it down, literally. So the basic premise is it's in the distant future. There's like this tech noir kind of backdrop. But it's only kind of a window dressing. It's a mild critique I have of this game that you think it's like a Blade Runner-esque horror, but it's really just to place the game at a certain moment in time.
Right.
The environments don't really reflect that aspect of it, nor do the weapons or gear you get. It's all very surface level. Mild only critique. So I'll get that out of the way now. There's some sort of bioterrorist attack
Of
in
course. Yeah.
it's somewhere in Britain this game takes place. I think it's modeled after Nathan's hometown in Bristol. Um in the distant future. So some shit goes down. It's very vague, but you do get scraps of information via like journal entries and paper clippings and all that fun stuff. And the main character's close friend Sasha is part of a team that looks like toxic cleanup or a cleanup crew. So you assume a role is her for the first moments of the game. She goes missing, and then that's the jumping off point. You, the main character, who name is Mika, head off to go find your missing friend. Very typical survival horror. Someone's missing, someone you love. I gotta go into hell to find them. And that's the basic structure
Mm.
of this game. And for a game that was made by one person, by and large, I mean, he has a team of like sound designers and voice actors and artists, but this is by and large Nathan's baby. He's a one-man dev. It is better than most horror games out there on the market today. It nails PS2 era horror to a T. With all the tropes. There's no tank controls. So
That's not see. That's good.
yeah,
I'm glad we
yeah,
evolved from that.
yeah.
There is another evolution. I don't know if you picked up on it, but at
Mhm,
least in the gameplay clips that they show on Steam,
mhm,
um, when going up and down stairs,
mhm.
the camera pans a little bit up so you don't
Oh,
see the ankles, so you can't
yeah.
see the person skipping like 9 steps at a time like they do
It
in
is
Resident Evil, which is
yeah,
nice.
it's like a cutscene.
Yeah,
There's like
yeah,
a quick fade
yeah.
as you're it's like a loading screen
Hmm,
essentially
hmm.
as you transition from room to room. Um, some really fun things about this game that I really loved was you'll come across various corpses as you're kind of exploring the town that you're in, trying to find your friend, and you'll get a little pop up, like a visual cue, like a pop up video of like the person's name and cause of death. So it'll say like like unidentified female, asphyxiation, age 35. It happens a lot throughout the game. Um, and I learned from Nathan this was actually a Kickstarter reward that some of the backers could put themselves in the game as corpses,
Oh, that's awesome.
and some of them could pick how they died,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
which is like the most clever reward I can think of for a Kickstarter campaign. Um, the gameplay is an elevated, again, classic survival horror mechanics, but with modern sensibilities. So it's
Mm.
not as janky, but there is a level of jank, which I
It
would
seems
imagine.
smooth. Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine whatever jank is there is by and large intentional to kind of capture what this game is trying to emulate from horror games of days past. Very small weaponry. You got your classic handgun. There's a bow and arrow, which is kind of funky. There's a plank of wood. There's an electric guitar that you can
Okay.
get and smash people over the head with. Which I'm
I
wondering if
was
it
very upset that they went with the clawed hammer instead of the ball peen hammer.
yeah.
I don't know. That just seemed
There's also like a street sign that is used like a pickaxe, which is really clever.
oh, interesting.
Uh, so uh, it ticks all the boxes. It has like if you're looking for like what do these games have in them? Fun cerebral puzzles. Check. It's got those. That's actually why I started chatting with Nathan over Discord because I couldn't figure out a certain puzzle early on. It's very mathematical. Like you're looking for a certain combination for a safe in the room to get an item,
Mm.
and it's clearly about either someone's age or a day they graduated from college. So you're looking at documents of when they were in college versus when their child was born. So you're trying to place these certain numbers.
Interesting.
And I'm like, you fucking bitch, I'm doing math now. I have like a whole like scrap paper. I'm jotting down. It's very old school.
Yeah.
Like that's how I did things
Those are the
back in
good
the
old
day.
days. Yeah, those are the good
So
old days.
It's got that. It's got some great enemy design, though there only are a handful of enemies in the game. It's got one really awesome boss fight at the very end of the game. Uh, it has some really great sound design. Like some of the medleys in this, the piano medleys and the little atmospheric tones,
Mhm.
um, are really intense. And I think that's why I couldn't put it down because it was just I was so engrossed by it. Um, and there's actually a moment early on when you encounter someone who is at their wit's end who wants to unalive themselves. And there's a dialogue tree. The only time in the entire game this happens. And you're going through the motions, and it seems like there's only one possible outcome. This guy jumps off and, meets his end.
Mm.
And I was talking to Nathan. I was like, listen, I'm trying all these combinations. And am I doing this in vain? Or can I save this guy? And he goes to me, keep trying. You can save this dude's life. So I was like, that's really neat. And this guy tags along with you if you save him for the duration of the game, which is pretty awesome. Um, and I'm wondering how things play out if I don't save his life. So I'm gonna go back and do a second playthrough. Fortunately, it's not a long game. Uh, Again, I finished it in one sitting, which is
That's a
really,
very interesting
really,
thing because like
yeah.
I want to go back to that character, like saving that
Oh
character.
yeah,
That almost changes, or it could create a whole other genre of game, right? Like when it becomes an
yeah.
escort mission where you just gotta like watch,
It's
this other character.
it's very so he wears all the inspirations on its sleeve. It's got Silent Hill 3 in there, Silent Hill 4, Kuon, Rule of Rose, all these classic PS2 horror games.
Right.
And the escort part is very Silent Hill 4. The whole second half of that game is a glorified escort mission. So I can see where he may have pulled that from. But he like talks to you and like gives you feedback, and he shares the horrors with you as they unfold. Uh, but yeah, it's a really great little horror gem. It's everything I wanted when I first saw this game. It is pure PS2 era horror done to perfection. It's only just a little bit too short, which I really can't even get that mad because it's only one guy making this game. And Nathan's known for like making bite-sized horror experiences.
Mm.
That's what he does. Um, but I was like, like you have some great puzzles, but there's like only three of them. Like there's some really great creature designs, but there's like only three of them. There's a really awesome boss, but there's only one of them. It's like, had he been given a proper team and a much larger budget, this could have been like even more phenomenal. It's a
Yeah.
great little game, and I love it so much.
You
And I
know,
really can't recommend it enough, to be honest.
I do remember playing Resident Evil, Resident Evil 2,
Mhm,
maybe Resident Evil 3, but for sure
mhm.
1 and 2. I remember you being able to sit down and beat each one of those games in one sitting as well.
Yeah, yeah, those
Like
didn't take too long.
if you know the puzzles, they're really not that long of games also. Like,
Yeah.
and the first one really only had I think it only had like three major puzzles. Like there was the
Mhm,
lion key thing, right? There
mhm.
was the chemicals for the plant, and
Oh,
then
fuck that part of that game.
there was like I think there was only one more after that, right? Like everything else was just like find a key, use a key.
Yeah, find a key, move a structure, move a cabinet, out of the way, look for a key code, that kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
Uh, but this guy really understands horror, and the fixed camera angles really sell it. Like he knows when to pan for
Right.
certain aspects. Like there's a moment early on, like the first part of the game when you're playing as the girl that goes missing. You're looking for a colleague that's wandered off the beach. Like, hey, go find so and so. We can't find him to start this cleanup. And as you're wandering the beach looking for him, there's a shot of a cave. And you're like, okay, there's a cave. I should enter the cave. As you're walking towards the cave, the camera cuts in such a way that you see a shot of what is ostensibly your colleague's gas mask laying on the ground.
Uh-oh.
And it's so nicely done. It's like, well,
Yeah.
that's his clearly, and he's in that cave, obviously. So we got to see what's going on. So there's moments like that when you know that this guy really understands what horror should look and feel like.
Right.
And he does it so well. It's such a joy, and it's packed with moments like that, which a lot of modern horror developers don't quite get what crafting a moment looks like. There's a whole level in this game that's built to fuck with you completely. Like it sends you on a wild goose chase, and then it spits you out with the clear intention that this was all just a mind fuck, and nothing you did or acquired or picked up matters in any way. It's designed to get into your psyche and mess you up a little bit. And there's great visuals too across the board. So I wish a guy like him could get a full ass budget and make something with a team and a much larger scope. But in the meantime, I'll enjoy these little bite-sized horror tales he does, which aren't really that expensive and aren't time consuming. There's some bonus modes, altered endings, of course, so can revisit at some point. But again, cannot recommend this.
Awesome. Well, check it out. Again, that's Hollowbody. It's got really good user reviews. How much is it? It is, I don't think it's that expensive either.
I think it's like either $19.99 or $24.99. It can't be more than
$16.99.
There it is. There it is.
$16.99 centicles.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of cents and nothing making any of it, the entire staff of Annapurna has resigned as we get into the Indie News report. These are slightly older news stories, but that's okay. That's all good. Unfortunately, the article you put in here is behind a paywall. So if you have a subscription to that article, please feel free to take over, because I don't really know what the hell happened here. None of it makes any sense to me. Not quite sure what's going on. However, there are some games still gonna come out. So we're gonna go through that part of this. GamesIndustry.biz writes that Control 2, Wanderstop, and Mixtape are among projects unaffected by Annapurna collapse. Annapurna president Hector Sanchez reportedly told developers that the firm would honor its existing contracts. Developers with upcoming projects due to be published by Annapurna Interactive have reacted to the news of its collapse, most of them to say their project is currently unaffected by the situation. Remedy's communications director, Thomas Puha, reacted on social media yesterday to clarify that the Finnish studio's deal for Control 2 and its TV projects were with Annapurna Pictures and not the firm's video game branch. Just an absolutely wild story here. Matt Newell, developer behind the upcoming Annapurna published Lush Foil photography sim, posted a cautious statement saying that they, quote, can assume at this stage that Lush Foil photography sim will be unaffected given that the game itself is mostly complete. So that's good for them. Mostly complete. So GamesIndustry.biz also writes a little bit about the actual split, so we could talk a little bit about what the hell happened. Annapurna Interactive split reportedly caused by staff concerns over company direction. Talk about putting your foot down. Oh my God. If every company did this, man, there'd be no companies. More details have emerged following the mass walkout of Annapurna Interactive's team last week, with sources telling IGN they were reportedly unaware of the Remedy deal until the day it was announced and were confused, concerned, and frustrated by the direction of the company. It was already known that the team walked out due to a breakdown in negotiations to spin off its games division from its parent company, Annapurna Pictures. According to IGN, the plan was for the new company called Verset to be created out of Annapurna Interactive, which would become Annapurna's, quote, indie arm. As negotiations were underway, the team reportedly discovered in August that Annapurna Interactive co-founder Hector Sanchez has been quietly rehired as president of Interactive and New Media by Annapurna Pictures CEO Megan Ellison, who is working on, quote, gaming projects without the knowledge of the rest of the Interactive staff. Bitch, what? How dare you, Megan Ellison? How dare you? Making light of the situation, I do apologize, folks, but this is wild to me. Sanchez left Annapurna Interactive in 2019 to join Epic Games as head of Epic Games Publishing, a position he left in February of 2024. Ooh, behind the scenes doing sneaky things. I don't like that.
Ooh, ooh, ooh,
ooh. Not a fan of that.
Mm-mm.
A spokesperson for Annapurna claimed talks between Sanchez and Ellison began earlier this year before she offered him the role at Pictures, where he would lead efforts in the AAA and AA gaming space, including transmedia properties. Transmedia meaning, things that become shows, right? Games that become shows and vice versa.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
This includes the deal between Annapurna Pictures and Remedy Entertainment, announced in August, a deal that sources say Interactive team were unaware of until it was announced. Scrolling down here, an Annapurna spokesperson said, quote, the whole situation is a baffler, but now we're focused on moving forward. We've had really great conversations with an overwhelming majority of our existing development teams and are grateful for their partnership. So just a lot of, keep your employees abreast of what you're doing, like at least a little bit. If it's not going to hurt for them to know, yikes. I don't know.
It's so wild because, I had no idea until very recently that this company was founded by an Ellison, and that family is now going to be taking ownership of Paramount, my former company.
Oh,
which is just wild to me that when you have these billionaires putting their hands in these companies, sometimes shit hits the fan.
clearly.
And I have so much respect for a team that says, listen, we feel we've been left out of the broader conversation. How big could this team even possibly be? When I think about it, they're not a huge company that I know of.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's about 25 people that were part of the Interactive on the gaming side, and they were just, listen, we're not part of this conversation. We don't like being kept in the dark. We're all just going to walk away. And whatever the underlying reasons are, I have such respect for that. That is such a move. That is big dick energy right there.
Isn't that
Just
kind of like, isn't that kind of the point of having an Interactives division, is to utilize them for projects like that? And if you keep them in the dark about the future of the projects, I guess, I don't know how it works in like the AAA space. Like, do they know, does a development team know what they're going to work on next if it's not something that they themselves pitch? Like, how does that work?
I just find it so insane that there's so many active projects that are going on in the studio.
Right.
There was one that I saw that I only cared for the most. There was a Silent Hill game that was being developed by Annapurna, was salvaged. So that was confirmed by Konami that they're going to continue that partnership and get that game made, which is like, phew, sigh of relief for me. But these are the folks they're making your business.
Right.
They're running everything. They're making the product. And to see breaking news, like, they should know about these things before it's in a headline, is what I'm saying.
I would hope so.
It's such a blow, and it's, have some level of transparency. And then you're getting on calls trying to get folks who resigned and quit to come back, and you're scrambling and you're walking things back. It's not a good look. And there's a movie studio called A24 that does amazing indie film and incredible. I thought that Annapurna was like the indie video game counterpart to A24. They've always made very polished, very high praised indie games. And to see this team just kind of walk away over what could have easily been avoided is such a waste. And
completely bizarre.
it's just like, there's enough layoffs going around already.
Right.
To have a whole team who's up and quit is not what I want to see right now either.
Just an absolute wild situation.
It's bonkers, dude. It's unprecedented.
All right, so why don't we wear our fanboyism on our sleeves for a little bit here? And go in. Yeah, let's get into the next story here. Dune Awakening on Xbox Series S is, quote, a challenge. Funcom says. It seems this comes from insidergaming.com, insider-gaming.com. It seems as if Xbox is taking nothing but L's lately. Wow. Talk about spin. With numerous developers stepping forward to discuss how difficult it is to work.
Did you write this article?
I did not. How difficult it is to work with the hardware and restrictions. We still don't have word on Black Myth Wukong on Xbox, with countless rumors circulating about why. Interjecting here, some of the rumors are that they made a side deal with PlayStation. None of those are founded at all. Even after a week and a half after this article was put in our doc, still not a thing going on. But I digress. We still now developer Funcom says bringing Dune Awakening to Xbox Series S is giving them some trouble. It's a challenge, they said. Let's get to the quote. So it's one of the reasons we're coming out on PC first. There are a lot of optimizations we need to do before we release on the Xbox. But yeah, Xbox Series S is a challenge. Unreal does a lot of the work for us in some ways. What we're more doing is optimization of assets and using various technologies, be it FSR or something else, to replicate frames. We want the game to look stunning on high end, whether you have a 3070 or a 4090, but we also want it to look good. I don't think we've released our min spec yet, but powerful cards from a few years ago should be able to run the game. It should look good. It won't be able to leverage the ultra spec options, but it'll still look nice. So essentially, they're going to release on PC, work on optimization, and once they get that down to a minimum spec, they're going to see if they can get that minimum spec to work on a Series S, is essentially what it seems like is going on here.
Mm-hmm. Cue the surprise Pikachu face. I think we all mentioned this at the onset of this, current console generation, that these two SKUs would pose a problem for Microsoft down the road.
Right.
And we're seeing it more and more crop up lately. I just feel like Baldur's Gate 3 was the turning point. I think that game being delayed on the Xbox consoles opened the floodgates where it allowed devs to, let's not wait,
complain,
let's not push back our schedule. Let's just say, hey, it works on PC, it works on PS5, it's not quite there on Xbox. We'll release it and then we'll work on these other ports down the road.
Right.
I think Baldur's Gate 3 allowed others to kind of like take that risk and just be, again, complain when they need to, and just not give a shit. Like, hey, they've done it. We can just release this on these two consoles. We'll make the sales there. Same with Black Myth Wukong. It's not optimized properly for the Xbox. We're going to put it on these two first. We'll work on this. When it's done, We'll get it out there. But I feel like, as what now is I would imagine, the midpoint of this current console cycle, that this is going to be an increasing problem down the road. I am afraid for games like Grand Theft Auto 6. I don't think we'll see a similar issue, but Lord knows what happens down the road. But yeah, it's been a concern, I think, since day one, and we're now just seeing, as games are getting more intense and more to optimize, we're just seeing all this coming to a head. The chickens are coming home to roost, I feel, is what's happening.
I would never find myself worrying about what Rockstar does, only because we've seen what they did in 3 generations with GTA 5. They clearly build on a very strong foundation and then scale up from there. They care about the gameplay and the story that they tell and all the mechanics that are built behind the scenes, and then they make it look good as they go along. Like they don't, it's just not something they worry about.
Oh yeah, definitely. But you know, that's like a doomsday scenario. That's like that's the one game you don't want to have be impacted by the Series S. You know, to delay a release.
I don't think they'll
And,
let
you know,
it.
yeah, and again, you have that weird like parity rule, like that Xbox imposed. Like
Yeah.
you can't, if you're gonna have it on one system be a certain way, it's gotta be the other way on the other one. That was why Baldur's Gate 3 got its huge delay because they couldn't get the local co-op to work or the split screen co-op.
The split screen, yeah, that's
yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
taxing on good PCs too. Like it's not
Right.
it's not a great thing. I remember a couple of friends of mine were really excited when that game came out, and it's very difficult for them to play that even on PlayStation 5, like just split screen. There's another similar story here on Enotria, The Last Song. This is a Souls-like that's set in like a Renaissance Italian landscape. Something we saw at PAX East maybe 3 years ago, I want to say. It was maybe two PAXs, I don't know. But friends of the show. So the Last Song is delayed on Xbox indefinitely. PS5 and PC versions are unaffected. Here's the message that was shared. We are thrilled to be a few weeks away from Enotria, The Last Song, launching digitally on PC and PS5 on September 19th. So this did pass. I did not play. I don't know how it came out, how it's been doing. So full disclosure, this could be a nothing burger. It could mean absolutely nothing for the gaming landscape. What I played 3 years ago was pretty good. We'll see. Enotria has been a passion project of ours for years, and we cannot wait to see you bring the fight to the authors to put a finite end to the twisted eternal play. Canavocchio. Italian words are hard for the Italian. But even in the beautifully detailed world of Enotria, there is bound to be some darkness. Unfortunately, at this time, we've announced the indefinite delay of the Xbox version. We understand. Indefinite delay. Is that not an oxymoron? An oxymoron? Is that not? Those two words together make cancel.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
Whatever. We understand how disappointing this news is to the Xbox community. Unfortunately, despite our efforts and the hard work of our dedicated team, we've encountered challenges that have delayed our release on the Xbox platform. We want to emphasize this is not a decision we've made lightly. We apologize for any disappointment this may cause. Yata, yata, yata. But there was also a tweet from the dev. A little sneaky tweet. Back in March.
Please tell us the sneaky tweet.
Yes, the sneaky tweet. From Fort96, which I guess is one of the developers. That said, I would never allow our game to release discreetly on all platforms. I prefer the game to be perfect on 2 platforms rather than discrete on 3. Once we have released the game, we will also get to work on the Xbox version and the DLC so that we could also give the game to Microsoft users. The choice fell on PS5 rather than Xbox simply because we have a relationship with our partners in Asia, Sega, with whom we have agreements that we want to respect as a matter of respect for them. As you may all know, the Asian market is largely dominated by PlayStation, so PS5 was the most logical choice. However, I would like to clarify some things. Giyama Games is an independent software house that has never been financed by anyone, including Microsoft. Some accusations that have been made by some users are bordering on a lawsuit regarding this issue. I hope that everything is clearer now and that the Xbox community doesn't get angry about my forced choice. So that one doesn't seem development related. That seems common sense related. Our main partner is in Japan, and PS5 is the thing they know the most. So we're putting it there.
And it's not coming on the Switch, so it's got to go there.
Yeah, because the Switch would explode. Speaking of Nintendo and the Switch, Nintendo
Oh my
explodes
god.
and gets the ban hammer out. Lawsuits flying. Just flying everywhere. They finally got him. Palworld, Pocket Pair, lawsuit, Nintendo. Who could have saw that coming?
This is the dumbest thing
Dumb.
I've seen.
Super, super dumb.
Mm-hmm. This is so.
It's a patent infringement lawsuit. What's the patent? Is it?
So one thing I've learned, Steve, is in all the discourse is how many people think that they're lawyers on the internet.
Sure.
And I'm not going to be like an armchair lawyer right now, like everyone else is on everywhere about this issue.
Yeah.
When the only motivating factor here is driven by money, which Pocket Pair has a lot of, clearly.
Yeah, they waited for them to be able to afford lawyering up.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. So, I did a little cursory search on some of our former guests of the show that have very similar Pokemon-like games.
Yeah.
I guess I did some sales figures research.
Sure.
And guest of the show, Koromon. Mon is even in the title of that game.
Monster. Yeah, that's short for monster. I don't think you could patent a
No.
What's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? When you shorten a word? Abbreviation. There we go.
Abbreviation.
I'm so smart. Yeah, I don't think you could patent that. I could be wrong.
Well, and being in the most generous sales figures and profit and gross revenue, game made like $2 million according to VGinsights.com. Monster Sanctuary, another former guest of the show, 3.6 million gross revenue.
GG's.
Monster Crown on the low end, about 400K.
That's
not bad.
That's a good chunk of
not
change.
Bad. That's not bad.
I wish I made 400K.
These are only on Steam where these figures are coming from.
Right.
Temtem. Everyone knows Temtem.
I love Temtem.
About $34 million gross revenue.
$34 million. No, I mean that was.
And we look
at
a game like Palworld, which again only on Steam, not even counting its recent PS5 announcement the other day. $500 million. This is the only reason why Nintendo gives a shit.
Some of their monster designs are real close. Like they are real close to some Pokemon.
Worthy. I don't think it's lawsuit worthy.
I don't think it matters what we think.
I mean, look, it's like a sheep with a machine gun.
Yeah, sure.
Dude, I don't know. Like, listen, you can say, this is just so stupid to me.
Sure.
It's just so dumb and useless. Like, the game isn't even like Pokemon functionally.
No, like at all, almost.
Right.
It's like a city builder.
It's a different kind of genre. Yeah.
It's like a survival like village builder, and then you go and shoot each other with guns, and you can like invade other people's like shit and steal their pals. It's kind of funny.
And I'm wondering if this is like, and Pocket Pair is a Kyoto-based company, so they're in Japan.
Ooh.
It's like is your own fellow countryman that you're suing. Like, I don't give a shit.
Maybe that adds fuel to the fire.
Maybe that's a factor. Yeah, that could be a factor.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hate it. I just hate it. Like this little game, it could have not caught on and not been a success, and this would have been nothing to Nintendo. But it caught fire, got a huge following, sold a lot of copies. It's gonna sell more. I heard that they delayed the Japan release on PS5, which is annoying because of the ongoing lawsuit. But just let indie devs do their thing. I mean, yes, there's inspirations, but that's true of any monster taming game. You can look and see what's been derived from which Pokemon or Digimon or whatever the fuck. Just leave him alone, man.
Whoever the shit.
What is it? What, punching down? Isn't that what that's referred to?
Yeah. Correct.
Like, let's let the guys enjoy their success and make their stupid little Pokemon gun game. You know,
Let them cook.
focus on making a game that looks good. Nintendo, how about that?
How about
Make your next Pokemon game not.
Oh, they don't give a shit because all they could shit out a game and call it Zelda and it'll get a 10 out of 10. So don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. Although IGN gave the most recent one a 9. People lost their shit about that. Okay.
Wait, what they gave what a 9? Zelda?
That Zelda game.
Listen, I played that game. It's okay.
9.
It's like a 7 to me.
Yeah. Well,
that game is not 9 worthy at all. At all.
I think all the people who grew up on Ocarina of Time, so me, and like Link's Awakening and A Link to the Past, like the people who think those are the be all end all of video gaming need to take a metal baseball bat to the brain so and should not be allowed to review video games anymore.
They have not played enough games.
Games have gotten a lot better than that since then. And I'm sorry. I think Breath of the Wild is dookie butt. Fight me. I don't care.
You know, listen. I don't hate Breath of the Wild, but it's not even in my top Zelda games.
I don't hate it either. Just to be very clear. It just wasn't for me.
They're among my least favorite. Like, sure. I would rank so many other ones before Breath of the Wild.
Right.
Because it deviates too much from the formula I like in a Zelda game. You could have done what works really well instead of making like this weird open world fucking Assassin's Creed like game crawling on mountains and shit with no dungeons.
Don't want to climb on those mountains of shit?
Yeah, like with weapons that break.
I understand.
That's one of my most hated gameplay mechanics.
It sucks.
Ever.
It's never fun. It's never fun.
So stupid.
It's never fun. Assholes. Anyway, let's get into the wishlist roundup. We have 3 games on here.
Ooh,
that caught our attention. One of these might have been put on here by Matt. We don't know, but that's okay.
They have all been put on here by Matt.
Well, one of them might. I mean, that's okay because we're gonna read them first, and then we'll go to what they are. Right. This first one is The Night Scarred Forgotten Gods. Embrace your destiny as the daughter of Erlich, the god of death. In this immersive first-person action game, craft your own spells, creatively combine them with Night Scarred's hybrid combat system, and assassinate your foes to restore balance in a physics-driven world, solo or in co-op. Game looks pretty damn cool.
I just say, unless you're making a spin-off or a sequel, colons have no place in a video game title.
I do agree. I do agree with that.
Get rid of it. Just call it the Night Scar. That sounds so much more appealing.
Well, I remember back when when was it? It was when Call of Duty stopped numbering their shit, or they started putting subtitles or whatever the hell it was. I think it was Modern Warfare. I think that was, or World at War.
Sure.
I forget whatever one. I think Modern Warfare was first and then World at War came out. But like around that time, Activision said they had all this data that games that are numbered don't sell as well as games that have a subtitle or like a, whatever. And so like that's why they changed how they name it. They put the number in there like somewhere hiding, but then it's like the subtitle became the brand. So now it's like Modern Warfare, Black Ops, but like Call of Duty 7, Black Ops, fucking the line ghost sniper killer guy. Like none of that shit matters.
It's like Assassin's Creed did the same thing, but that's because like Call of Duty, they did annual releases. So you can't, like Resident Evil is approaching number 9, Street Fighter 6. Okay, we don't get these like once a year like these games do. So I get the colon there. It's fine. I understand it because, Call of Duty 25 doesn't sound that great. Or like Assassin's Creed 12.
Assassin.
Sounds stupid.
Call of Duty XXV.
ACX, some shit like that.
Yeah.
We did get Mortal Kombat 11, which was 11 of those, but that was weird because they skip like a bunch of numbers. But yeah, sidebar, colons. If it's a brand new game, get rid of it.
Yeah, we don't need it.
You don't need it. It just makes your game sound weird and pretentious.
Game looks cool though. The
It
Knight's
does look
Guard,
cool.
Forgotten Gods. Check it out. The next one here is Interlopers.
Great
Interlopers
title.
is a solo.
I'm into it.
Yes, one word. Interlopers. Interlopers is a solo developed first-person shooter inspired by retro classics. Wield big guns, shoot hordes of enemy robots, and explore handcrafted levels set on multiple alien worlds. This game looks like a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. It looks simple. It looks like what I remember Halo feeling like when you have all the aliens kind of running at you and you're just dodging and weaving and shooting things. This looks fun. I mean, it's simple. It's a first-person shooter.
I love like there's the parts of the enemies litter the whole field, like there's bits and bolts and metal scraps all over the place. That's so neat. Very simple design, but with really funky like 3D graphics and models, and I'm so into it.
It looks like toys. Like it looks like you're killing like something you would buy at Radio Shack in like 2006.
This is, again, I don't want to do a huge sidetrack here or a sidebar, but it's a lesson that I think a lot of modern devs need to learn, and it's likely my game for our discussion next week is Space Marines 2 came out recently.
Mm-hmm.
Rave reviews, and the main theme I keep seeing across every review or a talking point is that it just embraces old school, gritty, fun gameplay.
Sure.
And there's no hangups. And this kind of game, it's embracing the fun of what games are supposed to be about, which a lot of devs on the AAA side just don't seem to remember or embrace as often as they should. And again, solo dev is always a great story to hear, and it looks great. I'm into it.
The last one on here is I really should want to play this game.
This seems like a you game.
It's got overwhelmingly positive reviews.
A lot of reviews too, so it's sold really well.
Yeah. It's an early access game. It is $12.99, and it is trading card game card shop simulator.
Oh my God,
open your own.
Build the shop.
You build the shop. You order the inventory. You price the inventory. You could run game nights. Now, the early access is it has like a story that you play through to the end, right? So it's really not you don't get everything right away.
I'm loving this so hard. This is so cute.
Yeah. Open your own local game store, stock shelves with the latest booster packs, or crack them and collect the cards for yourself. Set your own prices, hire staff, host events, and expand your card shop. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I haven't played this yet. Because it's still raw for me, Andy.
I was gonna say, are you triggered by this game?
I am. I'm very triggered that I could not get my tabletop gaming cafe going.
Yeah.
And I just feel like this is
it.
It's hurtful. It's hurtful to me.
Like a digital version of your dream.
Well, I don't want to just trade, I sell cards, you know what I mean? But like, it's hilarious.
No, but
it is fucking hilarious to me. I need to say this.
Go ahead, say it.
There is nothing but neckbeards as the NPCs in this game. Not a single child is buying these cards. Not only that, there's a mechanic where the people playing get stinky and you have to spray them with deodorant.
You have to hose down the unwashed masses of your card shop. Now it's like Power Wash Simulator.
Absolutely wild shit.
Oh my God, that is so. And also, listen, I was watching the little trailer on the Steam page. some of those monster designs on those not Pokemon cards. Is there a lawsuit brewing?
Oh, it's coming. Oh yeah, it's coming.
The game is pretty successful. Let's see how many copies it sold. Let's look at this game on the old. Check that one out. It's curious. VG Insights. Let's take a peek.
Yeah, take a look at that. Let's see. Once that hits 500 million, they're in trouble.
Let's take a little peek and see
that's the threshold for Nintendo giving a shit, right? It's about 500 million.
They've already made $2 million.
$2 million. Hell yeah. GG's.
200K units sold so far in the matter of 2 weeks. And early access too.
And it's one chapter. You just play one chapter.
And it's only $13.
Only $13 reduce.
Yeah. They got like 200K sales. Pretty good.
Speaking of a lot of money, our Kickstarter of the week has arrived. And let me tell you, I'm not going to go with Fallen Tier, The Ascension, because it's going to be done by the time you hear this podcast. So we can't talk about that. But we do have 60 hours to go as of recording this podcast for Altered Alma. Okay? This game looks really good. Like, stupidly good.
Friends of the show.
Yes. Friends of the show.
Do you know what game they did before this?
Directly before?
Yeah. Which was also a Kickstarter game.
Yes, I did know this, but I think it is escaping me.
You're not gonna guess. You're not gonna guess anything.
Okay, tell me.
AK Xolotl.
Yes, I did know that. I did know that. I did know that. I did know that. I did. But it's a collaborative team with some like different people, right? Yeah.
But this is like,
hang on, I gotta capture
by
the
and large, a huge upgrade for them. They're embracing the Metroidvania franchise, and it looks phenomenal.
Here we go. We'll get this.
Welcome to the electrifying world of Altered Alma, a neon-filled 2D Metroidvania with the rhythm of cyberpunk RPG adventures, where fast-paced combat meets strategic gameplay. Holy shit, the sprites get my pee-pee up. That's all I have to say.
Easy. All right. We don't need to know about your pee-pee.
When this is funded in about 2 days, give or take.
Yeah, it's got a quarter of $1 million, I think.
Yeah, these guys are gonna come back on the show to discuss their fun campaign. Oh wow, look at this.
I dropped something. Okay. Wasn't there a couple of games that we covered like that also starred somebody named Alma?
Alwa.
Thank you. I've been thinking about this for
Alwa's legacy.
Yes, I've been thinking about that since this Kickstarter was put in our show doc 2 weeks ago when we tried to record this podcast.
Okay. Can you just scroll down to where it says gameplay on the Kickstarter page?
All right.
Do you see the little GIF of when she's like gutting guys open and they're bleeding everywhere? And like the intestines falling out?
Yeah, I do see that.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Dude.
Ripping heads off and whatnot. They're like cyborgs, so they're like fleshy bits, but also robot bits.
From the makers of a cute bullet hell axolotl.
It was a murderous axolotl. He had many machine guns.
True, but cutesy nonetheless. This is
and the axolotl is an apex predator, as you know.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true. Whoa, you can romance characters?
You can.
Shit.
Yes, there are multiple romance options here. So you can back this project right friggin' now. It has just a couple of days left as of this podcast recording. It's got 3,736 backers for a total of $212,504. They set a modest goal.
45K.
Yeah, 45,000.
But I love the goal though. It was $44,633.
Well, when you're making a Kickstarter, you gotta include those fees, you know? Gotta include them fees. True. All them fees. Speaking of fees.
They got some writers that did Resident Evil Village and Dead Space.
Oh, that's good.
And Tales of Iron.
Yeah.
And Still Wakes the Deep. They got some really good talent on this too.
I like that.
Wow! 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 Wow!
Oh
They're so
wow!
close
Oh
to
wow!
they still got time to unlock their last goal, which is English voiced dialogues. So English
I'm
voice.
in. Hire me. I'll do it for free. Don't even hit the goal.
And make it a goal. Let's hire
Don't
Steve
even make it a
Buckingham.
goal. Just hire me for free. Sell me hire me for exposure. I'm in. I'm in. I'm like the worst kind of artist. The worst kind.
No, it's like you're like
Setting our industry back 10 years.
You're like the local theater troupe, community theater. I'll do it for the exposure.
Yeah. Just waiting for Guffman. That's all. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to bring us to the end of the show. A triumphant return to the indieRift podcast. Sans Matt, unfortunately, but Andy, it was an absolute pleasure getting to podcast with you this week.
You know, after seeing you like 2 days back to back, it was like I missed you at PAX East this year. So it was like a makeup session, the little convention we went to. So it was really cute. And it was fun. And I'm glad we did this tonight. And when Matt is not dying of whatever the fuck, we'll get him back on the show.
Yes.
But we are full steam ahead.
We are. We're going to do the thing. It's going to happen. And it's going to be a wonderful thing.
Long ass spoon.
That is a long spoon, folks.
What is this?
It's a big ass spoon. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out with us again. If you want to follow us on social media, we're at indieRift. I'm at Batchild. Andy's at Pants Guy. I think I might be at Batchild27 most places. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, everyone else. And as always, please be excellent to each other.